Okay, great. So uh, this is now uh, this is like a occasional podcast with my friend Ryan Downie. He's from Real Atheology. Our podcast name is Let's Think About This, right? Ryan came up with this really good, really wonderful name. We are both like amateur philosophers, hobbyists. We love philosophy and theology, philosophy of religion. Um, Even though we are not like professional philosophers, we don't do this stuff for our career. It's more like our hobby. Um, is there anything you want to say about yourself, Ryan?
Just one, I'm happy to be here. I like this kind of thing. So yeah, I'm by trade, I guess you could say a kind of mathematician. I teach math at university, so that's my primary thing. But yeah, I've always loved philosophy. So this is like a fun thing that I try to incorporate into what I do all the time. So yeah, I'm really excited to do this.
Wonderful, wonderful. I'm also so I'm an engineer, I guess. I mean, I'm doing masters in engineering. I'm still a student. When I get a job, then
Mhm.
I'll call myself an engineer, right?
Nice.
Uh,
Yep.
okay, right now. Okay, so today we were going to talk about Trent Horn's video on female priesthood. Um, so let me share my screen and start the video about like what Trent says about female priests. I'm sharing sound too. Okay. Okay, so can you see the screen, Ryan?
Yep, I can see it.
Wonderful.
I'm good on my end. Yep.
Very nice. Okay, gotcha. So, let's begin. Let me speed up the video. Um, there you go. Let's do 1.5, I guess, 1.5.
We don't think there's any
Already,
sound.
quote unquote, right?
Yeah. I don't hear any
Oh,
sound though. Do you hear sound on your end?
yeah, I do hear sound. Do you hear sound on your end?
I didn't hear any sound on my end, so I don't know if
Let
the
me let me
audience.
let me see.
About immigration and
There
people
it
who
is.
pretend to be men or women, which makes sense.
There it is.
Okay, so
Yeah,
so
yeah.
now you're able to hear it, right?
Yes, now I can hear it. Yep.
Okay, okay. Let me just start again.
On Tuesday, President Donald Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance attended a prayer service at the National Cathedral, where an Episcopalian female bishop, quote unquote, proceeded to lecture them about immigration and people who pretend
Okay, already quote unquote, right? So already we are like beginning from his right wing, traditional Catholic perspective, right? Like quote unquote, like says like, yeah, females cannot be bishops, right? So already it's a pretty rough start.
Yeah, I thought he jumped in like just kind of overly aggressive. And he kind of does that. I actually took notes on this earlier because I wanted to refresh myself on this video, so I was kind of taking some notes earlier. And yeah, I just noticed his opening is just very aggressive. I don't know.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I mean, this is what he does too, right? Like he's aggressive, but he's like, I think he might deny his aggression, right?
Kind
This
of like
is
a passive aggressive.
yeah, I guess passive aggressive, right? Um, yeah, so I guess let's watch something more like I should mention um like will be also aggressive considering he's like this aggressive, right?
Sure.
So okay. Let's watch more.
to be men or women, which makes sense because she is pretending to be an actual priest. Liberals praise
Pretend, right? Again, pretending to be an actual priest. Okay, okay. Let's see some more.
her speech, even though they'd moan and complain if this were a real priest telling Kamala Harris to remember unborn children. But this incident also raises the larger issue of the problem with female priests in general, which is why in today's episode I'll share my favorite argument against the female priesthood. But before I do that, though, two things. First, I am getting sick, so please bear with me in my voice, people, and stay bonus content. And priesthood. And it's not the official reason the church gives for why it reserves the priesthood to men. The primary theological reason is that Christ only chose men to be apostles, even though he was countercultural enough to choose women if he desired women to serve the church in this way. What this means is that it is not the case that the church won't ordain women to the priesthood, but that it cannot ordain them to the priesthood. Pope St. John Paul II put it this way in his apostolic letter, Ordinatio Sacerdotalis.
An advertisement. Sorry about that. This stuff like happens to like an advertisement. Okay,
Yeah.
now the video is again. Now the video is on again. Okay.
Authority whatsoever to confer priestly ordination on women, and that this judgment is to be definitively held by all the church's faithful. But some people aren't moved by this argument from the authority of tradition, so they might cite scripture verses like 1 Timothy 2:12, which says, "I permit no woman to teach or to have authority over men. She is to keep silent." But this isn't a strong argument because critics could say this is a cultural convention of St. Paul's time, like when he says in 1 Corinthians 11 about the requirement for women to wear veils. Many Christians see nothing wrong with theologically orthodox female seminary professors like Janet Smith or Mary Healy, who teach men. Since the verse doesn't speak about the office of the priesthood specifically, it isn't decisive when it comes to disproving the female priesthood. Instead, the argument I often share is more intuitive, and faithful Christians who hear it often say, yeah, that makes sense. Specifically, it's the "by their fruits you shall know them" argument. In the Sermon on the Mount, our Lord said the following: "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorns or figs from thistles? So every sound tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears evil fruit. A sound tree cannot bear evil fruit, nor can a bad tree bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Thus you will know them by their fruits." This argument provides strong support for the claim that the movement to ordain women to the priesthood is a movement from a false prophet. It is not something that God willed for the church because of the bad fruits that these female priests preach. I have never, not once, found a woman
Can
who
you pause
publicly
it for a
portrays
sec?
herself.
Yeah. So what I thought was interesting here, so he brings up the Sermon on the Mount and kind of uses this as like a principle. So you'll know something or recognize something by its fruits. And what I noticed was he kind of, there's like two ways you could take that. So what he does, and I kind of wrote this down. He's decided to treat like kind of lump women all together. So he's referring to like the female priesthood movement. Now, if you read the Sermon on the Mount or go back to, you don't have to go back to it, but if you know if you look at the verse, the Sermon on the Mount, it's talking about how you'll like how you can tell if a specific prophet is a false prophet. So it's like referring to individuals, right? So like, how do you tell if someone who claims to be a prophet is a false prophet? You look at their fruits, and right. So that's like on an individual basis. What I thought's interesting is that he kind of changes it here. He switches to not using this as a means of testing whether any particular woman could be a genuine priest or prophet or whatever, you know. I guess here he's using it as a test for priesthood or a priest. So it's no longer like a test for an individual person, but like the whole thing, right? Like it's like a whole movement. Um, so that seems strange to me that he's trying to kind of change the application of it to be to an entire movement as opposed to like person by person. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, so instead of like by an individual woman's fruits, you'll know if she's of God. Like that would seem to be like the true application. He says by the fruit of female priesthood, kind of understood monolithically, you'll know if that whole thing is from God. And that seems like really problematic to me because if you go that route, and you tell me what you think of this, but if you go that route, it seems like he should equally apply that to the male priesthood, right? Understood monolithically, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And and if you look at the male priesthood, I mean, there's clear examples of it producing bad fruit. There's bad teaching. There's all the priests who like have molested children, you know, the
Yeah.
sexual problems and things. So like, if you apply it the way he seems to be trying to apply it, at least here, that would seem to also throw out the male priesthood. Um, but of course, there's some things he could try to do to get around that. But I don't know. What are your thoughts so far on that?
Yeah, so I pretty much agree. I also want to point out like Calvin. So, I mean, I guess he would say like Calvin is not a Catholic, but Aquinas was like heretics, obstinate heretics.
Hmm.
Even if they are like non-violent, they should be killed, right?
Yeah.
So, and he was like the doctor of the church, like, yeah, doctor of the church, bro. So it's like, um, it's not plausible that, like, um, like if you want to use by their fruits argument, it would it would destroy his own traditionalist views, traditionalist interpretation. In fact, it would aggressively destroy it if he's a moral intuitionist, but he's not. I think he's he does this sometimes where he's like he will talk about our moral intuitions and then but the for example, like Joe Schmidt and Dustin Crummett just recently published a video responding to another video of Trent on Catholic sexual ethics,
Yeah.
right? Traditional Catholic sexual ethics, because I think there are some, more more like left-wing Catholics who are trying to build more compassionate theology, right? Um, more inclusive theology to queer people for queer people, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you. Like the thing with like if he's like using by the fruits argument against like female priests, and as you said, right, like it's about the words also seems to be about like individual false prophets rather than like a movement,
Hmm.
right? It's sort
Yeah.
of like yeah, so you're correct about that.
Yes. Yeah. See,
And
sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, so yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, I think another thing, I think I noticed,
Teach men.
I think another thing I noticed what he did here. Let's play the video, I guess, and see what he says specifically, like the specific fruits he will talk about, right? And then we can, I guess, criticize, like examine what he's saying, right?
Okay.
So.
Who also taught that abortion, homosexual acts, and contraception found God willed for the church because of the bad fruits that these female priests preach. I have never, not once, found a woman who publicly portrays herself as a priest who also taught that abortion, homosexual acts, and contraception were sinful. Every time, without exception, these women preach all kinds of evils, and it is by those fruits of bad teaching.
Yeah, so he gave example of homosexuality, abortion, and contraception, right?
Yep.
Let me see,
Publicly
make
portrays
sure we are correct about this.
herself as a priest, these female priests preach. The movement from a false prophet. It is not something that God willed for the church because of the bad fruits that these female priests preach. I have never, not once, found a woman who publicly portrays herself as a priest who also taught that abortion, homosexual acts, and contraception were sinful.
Ah, okay. I was right. Contraception, abortion, and homosexual acts.
Hmm.
It's interesting. So first of all, abortion. Abortion is it's a controversial issue, right? Now, of course, Catholic Church does say that like the catechism and like the church is clear that abortion is morally wrong, right? Like this is their view, it's a mortal sin, right? Sure. But the thing is like those other Christians who are like pro-choice, they are not Catholics, they are not traditionalists, right? I mean, so it's like why would you um why do you think that? I mean, it's sort of like he has he's judging all them from within his own system, right? But remember, we can do this to him too, right? Like the cons to him are pros to us, right? The disadvantages or the evil beliefs to him, at least these three, right? I'm not talking about the others. These three about like contraception. Like Trent believes that contraception is wrong, morally bad. I believe that contraception is morally okay. It's totally fine. Um, Trent Horn would say abortion is wrong, it's bad, it's evil. I would say, well, I'm moderately pro-choice, so I would say like it's permissible, morally permissible, right? But it's not like a person should like actively just be antinatalist, right? Actively try to not have children, right? So so I'm moderately pro-choice because I think that um the like I'm a welfarist consequentialist, right? uh Trent is like a natural law theorist or like a divine command theorist, and he's interpreting his religion a particular way. So I would say like um abortion is simply another way to not bring someone into existence, right? So
Hmm.
like I do not believe that aborting is an actually uh, different than like a contraception or something like that, right? Because it's like there is no sentient being, there is no conscious entity, right? I think Dustin Crummett is also like agrees with me. Like consciousness seems to like the capacity for consciousness seem to happen uh, late term, right? Late term, late during pregnancy. So Dustin Crummett, I think, would say like late pregnancy abortion is not permissible. Personally, since I'm like a welfarist consequentialist, to me, I think only when the consciousness actually starts. So like when birth happens, only after killing a baby, like that would be wrong. That would be bad. Right. Uh, it would not be bad to like abort at any given time. Um, because because the baby, like I think there is like a I don't know if you know that, but there's a woman who goes by the name Defending Feminism on Substack. And she has her own, I think, website. And I think she gives like a bunch of empirical evidence on this, which is that like consciousness of babies only actually start after birth, after actual birth, right? So when the baby actually goes out of the womb, right? Actually taken out of the womb, then consciousness basically starts, right? Now, of course, the systems for consciousness are there during the late term, right? Dustin Crummett would say like the nervous system and all the consciousness generating stuff is present. And I agree with Dustin on this that late term the consciousness starting systems are there, but the consciousness still does not start unless the baby goes out of the womb, right? Like when birth actually happens, right? So to me, after like killing after birth would be bad. Killing before birth would not be bad, right? Like that abortion is not something of a huge deal. Now, generally, I would say like generally people should be pro-natalist, as in like because I'm a welfarist consequentialist, right? I think you like welfarist consequentialist would say creating a happy life is good, right? Creating an extra happy life in this world is good. So generally, you should be pro-natalist, basically, right? And we should generally make laws such that we are minimizing the harm and deaths and suffering, right? And maximizing happiness, pleasure, um, loving relationships, friendships, right? We're maximizing happiness, basically, maximizing the welfare of people. Right. So these are the two things. So like Trent and me just disagree on this. And the third thing he said like homosexual acts. Again, he says like these acts are evil. Now notice again, as I'm saying, like while he points out these three, and then he talks about all kinds of evil. Let me play the video again.
Every time, without exception, these women preach all kinds of evils.
All kinds of evil.
Hmm.
So notice from like three, these specific three, which are already heavily fucking controversial,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Right.
Already controversial.
Right.
Atheists don't agree with abortion with him. They don't agree with contraception with him. Now, of course, I'm not an atheist, but even though I'm a theist, I'm in a different moral paradigm as him, right? I have a different epistemological view, metaphysical view. I'm a different theological tradition too, right? So what the things he's saying is not like common thing. Like it's not like those female priests are like torturing children alive or something,
Right.
right? It's
Yeah.
not like that at all, where all of all of the Christians and non-Christians and atheists and agnostics can just agree, yeah, that's fucked up what those women are doing. But Trent is not doing that, right? He just talked about these three things which are already heavily controversial, and then of course he shifts from that to all kinds of evil, right? So this shift seems like very like it's frustrating to me when he says this. I
Hmm.
guess what are your thoughts?
Yeah. No, I can totally understand that. And I just think even on his own, so again, kind of going back to what I was saying, I just think even on his own logic, it just doesn't really work here for what he's trying to do. Because obviously, what he's trying to do is he's trying to say, hey, there's these women that I know of, or all the women that I know of who are call themselves priests, also teach these things that I consider evil. So therefore, female priesthood is bearing bad fruit, and so therefore it's not of God. That seems to be like his general argument. And I just don't even think that works. Like I said, like he is trying to take these examples, which I don't even think are um, representative. I think he's got a real bad selection bias here too, because he says like everyone that I know of, um, who says they're a priest, a female who's a priest, preaches all this evil stuff, what he considers evil. Um, and I'm like, and I think about that, I'm like, well, but where's that sample coming from? Like, clearly he, clearly the only people who will, the only churches that will really ordain women as priests are going to be like the more liberal ones, right? They're going to be the ones who disagree with him on these moral issues. Um, so like any women who would be like good priests, maybe who could bear good fruit, are sort of already taught that they're not allowed to be. So it's like, well, of course you're not going to see any women priests that you think would be good because they already agree with you or are taught that they can't be priests. So I just think that his whole thing here falls apart because it's sort of self-fulfilling. Like they've created a scenario where the only women who can be called priests are from traditions that they think are evil. So yeah, so I don't I agree with you. It's like, yeah, so that kind of ties into what you're saying. It's like there's
Yeah,
people out there who disagree with him on these moral issues. They're not as clear cut as he seems to make them think.
yeah,
But then even on his own grounds, he doesn't have good evidence here that supports that.
yeah. And you said something very important, very correct, Ryan, which is like he's setting them up for failure
Yeah,
from the beginning, right? Like already conservative like churches don't like allow female priests, right? So
right.
I mean, obviously, like if that's the case, then yeah, like those female priests would be like, of course they would be fucking liberal, right? It's
Right.
like, of course they would be liberal, right? So that's not really, it doesn't really, so yeah, it doesn't really help him much. So
Mm-mm.
let's play the video more.
Okay.
And it is by those fruits of bad teaching you can know their movement is not of God. This is not to say that women are morally inferior to men or anything like that. Rather, what I'm saying is that this particular movement, the teachings that have sprung from it, show that it is not of God. Mary Daly, a radical feminist theologian, said, "Women have suffered both mentally and physically from this deity in whose name they have been informed that birth control and abortion are unequivocally wrong, that they must be present as rituals and services in which men have all the leadership roles." Now, this argument are unequivocal. Women have suffered both sprung from it, show that it is not of God. Mary Daly, a radical feminist theologian,
Yeah, radical feminist,
Yeah.
so does
Yeah.
the person self-describe themselves as radical feminist or not? Like I want to see, right? Let's try to let's see, like what's the name of the woman? Mary Daly, right?
Hmm.
Okay, let's see. Let's just check again, right? Mary Daly, um, feminist, right? Let's see if she's like self-described radical feminist. Okay, look. It seems Wikipedia does say so. So she is a radical feminist. So Trent is correct in describing her as a radical feminist, right? Let me also see if like the New York Times is man, like it makes me pay money,
Yeah.
right? Britannica is free. Let's see. Mary Daly was an American who pioneered radical feminist theology. Okay. So she
So I
is a
think
radical feminist. So Trent is correct about that. Okay.
it must
So
be a, it sounds like it's almost being used like in a technical sense. Like
yeah. He's using I initially thought he might be like using in a
pejorative way, just kind of throwing it in there. Yeah.
yeah, kind of a like derogatory, right?
Yeah. I
Or
wanted to bring up though real fast. There seems to me, so again, um, I just wanted to reiterate one thing was that kind of he seems to be switching back and forth between this like lumping all women together and then like this individual view, so like by their fruits you'll know them. But he's like, okay, but these individual women who I disagree with, who I think are producing bad fruit, that discounts the whole thing. Okay, so that seems to be what he's trying to do, which is problematic. But then I was also, when I saw this part, kind of like Euthyphro came into my mind as he was kind of talking through that point, and it made me think like, does the female priesthood movement, and maybe you have some insight into this because I maybe are more familiar with Trent Horn's views than me, but there seems to be on the one hand, does the female priesthood movement produce bad fruit because it's not supported by God? So that's like one option. Or does God not support the female priesthood movement because it produces bad fruit? Like, do you know kind of like which one he is is saying here? Like, does he think that it's because they produce bad fruit because God doesn't support that sort of thing?
I mean, he's like a natural lawyer. He's likely a natural lawyer. Most Catholics are, I think.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
given his natural law theory, he would say like Euthyphro, like I think they're like the natural law theory way of dissolving Euthyphro. I don't think it actually works unless yeah, I don't think it actually works considering the stuff they believe in,
Well, I'm just
like
thinking, not really like the Euthyphro dilemma itself, but just I'm trying to understand like what he's trying to say. Like, so does he think the female priesthood produces bad fruit because God doesn't approve of it? Or is it that God doesn't approve of it because it produces bad fruit? Does
I
that
think
make
it would be the latter.
okay?
They produce bad fruit. That is precisely why God doesn't approve that. But
Okay.
but
Yeah.
this is I think ultimately like does not work. I think the natural law theorists like to say that they are like it's bad. That's why God said so.
Yeah.
But they actually don't really believe that. They actually are like more, they are ultimately more like divine command theorist.
Yeah.
Like my friend, like just recently I had a chat with like a Kevin non-Tradicath, and on his channel, he talked about like how natural law theory is like is just a Catholic divine command theory, right?
Okay.
It's a fantastic video. Um, it's a nice thumbnail too. It also it's a very good video. He goes into detail. He cites Phaser's work, right? Um, I recommend people to go to his channel, watch his videos, right? I just had a recent just chat with him just a few hours ago.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Yeah.
yeah,
Very cool.
great. So let's move ahead with Trent Horn's video.
Control and abortion are unequivocally wrong, that they must be present as rituals and services in which men have all the leadership roles. Now, this argument won't be convincing to someone who thinks contraception and abortion are not evil. But that just means this person has bigger problems to fix. However, for someone who just thinks the male priesthood is unfair and they otherwise love Christ and his church, this argument can help them see the dangers of the movement to ordain women to the priesthood. And it's not hard to find examples of female priests saying theologically and morally bonkers stuff. Here's a few examples brought to you by the Protestia account.
I do not like the concept of Christ the King Sunday, and I really don't want to preach on it. And the reason is that it has traditionally gotten preached as a kind of a triumphalist, victory over all our enemies, militaristic kind of thing. That kind of militaristic bullshit has absolutely no place in church.
Creator, you create in your image, and we thank you for creating outside of the binaries. Cis, trans, male, female, intersex, gender fluid, and non-binary, we are all your creation. Creator, we give you thanks for animals that express the multiplicity of genders, like earthworms, clownfish, cardinals, butterflies, and frogs.
Now, even in 2024, there's something controversial about being gay, about being a lesbian, about being pansexual or polyamorous or asexual or any of the other beautiful God-given shades of the rainbow.
We've also tried to encapsulate Jesus into this one unmovable, unchangeable thing. But Jesus didn't come just as full God walking around amongst us. Jesus came to be fully human. So I look to this scripture, not for Jesus' divinity, but for his humanity.
Reserving the priesthood to men.
Yeah, so okay, the first video was a theological criticism by that priest, right? About like Christ victory. Now it is important to note that within Catholicism itself, there are some priests who have different theologies, right? Like I think Pope Francis would have somewhat different theology than like fucking Aquinas, right?
Yeah.
Right? So I mean, it's like, come on, like Pope also has different political views than Aquinas, right?
hmm
So I mean,
Yeah.
it's so first video isn't exactly much of a criticism. Like, okay, look, maybe another female priest disagrees with the first female priest,
hmm
right? The first female priest, another female priest would say, okay, she is well wrong about this theologically, right? And then the second and third video and the fourth video, I think, are all about inclusivity to queer people, right? To inclusivity to LGBTQ plus people. And like, what the fuck, Trent? Like, dude, like, do you think this is evil? Like, have you read Aquinas? Dude, have you read Aquinas? Like, do you know what he says about heretics? Have you read Catholic integralists? Right? Do you know what they say about like non-Catholics and what should be done to non-Catholics? Right? Like, what the fuck? Like, this is evil. This is the example of evil he wants to give.
hmm
Like, really, dude?
Yeah.
Like John Calvin was the dude who was very, of course he's not Catholic, but he was very like Aquinas. And John Calvin said about Michael Servetus, so his rival theologian, who John Calvin believed was a heretic. Michael Servetus was first of all not like some kind of a murderer or sadistic psychopathic fuck, right? Michael Servetus was denied the Trinity basically. He did
hmm
not hold to like the Orthodox view of Trinity.
Yeah.
And John Calvin said about him, like, let me just show you quickly. I keep this stuff safe so that I can point this to people. John Calvin said this about Michael Servetus. If he comes here and I have any authority, I will never let him leave the place alive.
Yeah.
What the fuck is wrong with this trend, dude? Like, what the fuck is like, what a bizarre thing
Yeah.
to to say about these priests. Like, that's evil?
hmm
Like, to again, I'm being aggressive, I know, but he's aggressive too, especially
Yeah.
the way he's doing this, right?
Yeah. His
Like,
his priorities seem completely. I mean, even
yeah,
if he just
just upside down,
yeah,
right? It's
even if he
like it's
disagrees with them, it's like there's plenty of these male priests who have views or male church fathers or well, people he would perhaps even admire who, yeah, are like almost psychotic, compared to in some of the stuff they say.
Yeah,
Um,
like they're psychopathics. Like some like Kevin Non-Tradi again had a video where he talked about some of these fathers, these theologians believed in Mas Damnata. Mas Damnata, right? So Mas Damnata means like most people will go to eternal hell.
Great.
Most human beings.
Yeah.
So like think of out of 100%,
Yeah.
at least 51%.
Right.
Half of at least. Now, of course, most is much more than 51%.
Yeah.
I would think like at least 70% of
Yeah.
human beings, because most seems to give that vibe, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this is very, like this is the I think that video, um, the fewness and pitilessness of the saved in traditional Catholicism.
Hmm.
Like even the thumbnail is a traditional, like the thumbnail of that video by Kevin is like very powerful thumbnail, right? This is like Charles Manson on the
Yeah.
thumbnail,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's
So
like
is this guy here, this guy is a Catholic, but he's like a non-traditionalist Catholic, is that right?
he's right now an agnostic, but
Okay.
yeah, he initially his channel I think was non-traditional Catholic.
Okay.
He was, you could say, like a bit more left-wing Catholic initially when his channel, I think he made his channel,
Yeah.
but now he has become an agnostic.
Yeah, so see, how come he doesn't disprove the whole male priesthood thing? Like he's got different theology than well, I don't know if he was considered a priest ever, but um
Yeah, so Kevin is like he's not really a priest. He was like he was a traditional like he grew up
oh,
traditional Catholic, right?
oh there he
So
is.
he
Oh yeah, it
grew
says
up
he's a yeah,
TLM and like at an FSSP chapel. So
yeah,
FSSP is like a traditional Catholic, I think, chapel or something.
gotcha. Yeah,
Um,
I guess he does say there he's an ex-Catholic. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. But still, it's
So
like there's plenty of examples of male priests who believe, you could say, bonkers things, even compared to like things that Trent would consider bonkers. I mean, so
yeah,
it's
I
like,
mean, yeah, he says like bonkers to these women
yeah,
who are like very
yeah,
soft about this stuff. Like
yeah.
they're just like, let's include LGBTQ plus people. And I'm like, Trent, you what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? Like you wanna talk about evil? You wanna talk about cruelty? How about
Mhm.
Inquisition, Spanish Inquisition? And the church did apologize for some of these inquisitions and crusades. John Paul II, right? The
Mhm.
church did apologize for that.
Yeah.
You want to talk about by their fruits argument, asshole?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like,
I don't know what Trent thinks about the Inquisitions and the and those things, but I feel I don't know if you've ever been in the cesspool of Twitter lately. There's like seems to be quite a few, well, I don't know about quite a few, but I've seen people who are like, what was the problem? Like they think it was actually good, the Inquisitions and the um just all
crusades.
Crusade, yes, thank you. The Crusades, like they actually defend it, and there's like you're just like left like, oh wow, okay, not
Yeah.
sure what to do with that. You're just like gonna go ahead and bite the bullet. Wow.
And I mean, like, if you wanna use this argument by the fruits, then wouldn't Jains be the best? Like the Jains have been like the most non-violent
Yeah,
religion, like
yeah,
literally,
yeah,
historically even. Like
yeah.
they really emphasized non-violence, right? The
Yeah.
Jains. So it's like the buy their fruits argument is like reused by this dude, like Trent Horn is like such a pathetic, stupid argument, right? Um, yeah. So let's play the video again.
Earthworms, clownfish, cardinals, butterflies, and frogs.
Now, even in 2024, there's something controversial about being gay, about being a lesbian, about being pansexual or polyamorous or asexual or any of the other beautiful God-given shades of the rainbow.
We've also tried to encapsulate Jesus into this one unmovable, unchangeable thing. But Jesus didn't come just as full God walking around amongst us. Jesus came to be fully human. So I look to this scripture, not for Jesus' divinity, but for his humanity.
Reserving the priesthood to men is not a case
Yeah, so the last one was like, again, last one, I don't know what was the issue there. Like, I guess he wants to say that, well, that female priest was like denying that Jesus is God or something. I
Yeah,
guess
or either that or just like she was too focused on what I don't know, like something about how his humanity could be. I'm not really sure actually.
more relatable or something. His humanity could be more relatable or something. So,
Yeah,
I mean, if she does deny that Jesus is God, I mean, there are some left-wing progressive Christians who perhaps deny that, right? And I mean, yeah, I mean, that would be theologically not acceptable. Um, but even then, it's like, yeah, I mean, okay, if you want to say that, but again, like, look, he's saying evil, right? Like, Trent is using the word evil, like, not like saying, like, okay, these female priests are denying some of the fundamental core tenets about the existence of God, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's evil, like moral evil, right? And moral evil to me relates to cruelty, causing cruelty to someone,
Although in his
being
view,
very,
wouldn't he be like, would he say as an moral law theorist, would he say by evil I just mean they are going against how God designed it or something?
yeah, I
Would
mean,
that
like he does that, right? Like he's a natural lawyer, so it's like you shouldn't even frustrate um your the function of your sexual organs. So it's like
right,
you should not masturbate and you should not have any consensual romantic sex that is not for procreation.
right.
Right. And yeah, I mean he like natural law theory, like Dustin and Joe Schmidt showed like natural law theory is dumb. Just like a few days ago. Like just
Yeah,
sorry, just yesterday. Just literally yesterday. They just destroyed his like natural law theory. Um and like natural law theory is such a bizarre thing, right? Like the people who support it like also like sometimes smoke. Like smoking is should be the paradigmatic example that natural law theory immediately says like it's evil. Smoking should be evil.
yeah.
But then scumbags like Matt Walsh are like smokers, right? So he
Mm,
smokes cigars and shit. And I'm
mm,
like, you know, toxic, cancerous causing substances that you inhale have to frustrate the function of your lungs, right? Your breathing organs.
right,
They have to, right?
right.
Even a single smoke is harmful. So they have to frustrate your your function of your lungs,
Yeah,
right? So I mean
yeah,
that should be the paradigmatic example of an evil action. And in fact, it also harms you. So it should be worse than like
yeah,
masturbating or like
yeah,
consensual homosexual relationships, right? Innocuous consensual homosexual relationships, right? So
yeah, yeah.
it's like yeah, man, it's stupid. Stupid. Let's play again. Let's see what he says.
Of bigoted discrimination, like reserving the priesthood only to certain races or applying that rule to religious life. When that has happened in isolated instances, the victims of this real discrimination, like Father Augustus Tolton and St. Martin de Porres, did not promote evil in response to that injustice. They instead suffered evil as Christ did and remained faithful to the church in spite of that suffering. You can find holy priests of all races, but I have yet to find a holy female priest, one who does not promote grave evils. And when I say female priest, I'm not talking about a woman who merely feels like she could be a good priest. When people hear the bad fruit argument, they often quote St. Therese of Lisieux as an example of female priesthood bearing good fruit. This can be seen in this webpage at womenpriest.org, which quotes St. Therese as writing the following in her autobiography. To be betrothed to you, Jesus, to be a Carmelite, to become, through my union with you, a mother of souls, surely that ought to be enough for anybody. But somehow not for me. I seem to have so many other vocations as well. I feel as if I were called to be a fighter, a priest, an apostle, a doctor, a martyr. I want to be a priest. Notice, however, that there are ellipses that show some of the text in the autobiography has been removed. The missing text reveals St. Therese's desire was more of a whimsical fondness than a serious calling to the priesthood. She writes the following. I feel as if I were called to be a fighter, a priest, an apostle, a doctor, a martyr. as if I could never satisfy the needs of my nature without performing, for your sake, every kind of heroic action at once. I feel as if I got the courage to be a crusader, a pontifical zouave, dying on the battlefield in defense of the church. And at the same time, I want to be a priest. How lovingly I would carry you in my hands when you came down from heaven at my call. How lovingly I'd bestow you on men's souls. And yet, with all this desire to be a priest, I have nothing but admiration and envy for the humility of St. Francis. I would willingly imitate him in refusing the honor of the priesthood. Such contradictions, how can they be reconciled? I long to bring light to souls, like the prophets and doctors, to go to the ends of the earth to preach your name, to plant your glorious cross, my beloved, on pagan shores. One mission field alone would never be enough. All the world, even its remotest islands, must be my mission field. Nor would my mission last a few short years, but from the beginning of the world to the end of time.
There's DIY.
Sorry, another advertisement. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. I think, yeah, I don't. His explanation here is kind of goofy. I don't think it really helps him to point out that she was being kind of like, I mean, she still wanted to be a priest, and he seems to be like, well, everything else she wanted was like, okay, like you could be a crusader, you could be a whatever else, like all those things
Crusader.
are, yeah, like you can do that, you can die on the battlefield, like you can help, all those other desires were
Yeah,
fine,
you
but
can murder people, but you cannot be a
like
priest, by the way.
just that one priest desire though, that's not okay.
Like what when I sometimes see his videos, I'm like I feel like I'm like this is surreal in a sense, right? It's surreal. It's like there's like a surrealist paintings and stuff where like weird shit is going on in the paintings,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And always think like these guys have to be like not really sincere or serious, right? Like this is surreal and bizarre shit to just go, yeah, crusaders doing bizarre, horrible shit was okay, but these woman priests preaching about including queer people is just evil.
yeah,
It's like you
yeah.
fucked up morality itself.
Yeah. And I don't know if he has a problem with women theologians, or because he brought up earlier at the beginning of the
Yeah, he
video.
does not have problem with like theologians. It's just priests.
Yeah, so it's weird. Like I don't understand what because the problem here seems to be that women priests, the bad fruit he's referring to seems to be their teachings. But so I don't get like exactly what the difference is, that makes a difference for it's okay to be a theologian where you're doing lots of teaching and but not a priest. Like so is there something inherent about priesthood that causes women to suddenly start teaching bad things? Like I don't it's a weird, I don't get what he thinks is going on there. Like where women can be teach perfectly good things in perfect theology if they're a professor or a theologian, but then somehow if they become a priest, suddenly they're going to start preaching bad stuff. Like, okay, I'm not really sure how that works. Um, yeah,
It's
I don't get
yeah,
what he
it's
thinks.
dumb.
Yeah, it just seems inconsistent, and he doesn't really give any kind of indication why the one would be okay and not the other. Other than just that he thinks for some reason women priests tend to devolve into teaching bad doctrine or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know.
Yeah,
We
I mean
gotta,
it's a very um stupid argument. I mean,
again, I think it's
I'm glad that it's like I'm the
yeah.
only one who's like very aggressive here.
Well, yeah, and I think it goes back again to that selection problem, the selection bias in
Yeah.
the examples he's picking. It's like, okay,
Yeah, like yeah. Let's watch the video even further.
okay, yeah,
Um
Join the Lord that she wanted to do everything for God. which is good if you don't literally try to be a crusader, a soldier, a priest, a martyr who dies for Christ, and someone who preaches until Christ returns. I'm talking about women who, unlike Saint Therese of Lisieux, practice disobedience to God and put on clerical garb to pretend to be priests and preach many other grave errors in the process. There may be exceptions that prove the rule. I mean, it's hard to
So
prove the
now
universal
it's
negative.
disobedience.
Again, pretending is like pretending. The word pretending means like a kind of deception. Like they internally do not believe that they are like they're lying to people, right? That's what pretending means. Like they are sincere about their beliefs, right?
Right.
So it's like again a very dishonest word there,
I
right?
don't know if you think he seems to be a bit kind of now switching to slightly begging the question, like because he says they're disobeying God, but the whole point of the argument was to try to argue for why the priesthood, um, or the female priesthood isn't legitimate, right? So that's supposed to be like the conclusion of the argument. But now he's kind of switching to just assuming that it's not legitimate, that it's disobeying God to try to be a female priest.
Yeah,
Because
right.
he,
I mean,
because
it's
he,
the whole endeavor is like question begging because like immediately he like started like they are like they support like contraceptives, they support like consensual homosexual relationships and like so already question begging because it's like look like I always sometimes think Ryan is like is this some kind of a comfort channel for traditional Catholics, in which the goal is not really to actually offer a an apologetic, right? An actual defense of Christianity to the atheist, that the atheist would say, yeah, this is pretty good. I have to think about this. You know,
Mhm.
like that would be an example of a defense, right? In which like an atheist would say, yeah, I have to think about this, or like an atheist would say, yeah, okay, look, I don't find what you say plausible, right? Um, in a respectful way, right? But like his channel, like Trent Horn, and like there's also like Matt Fradd, and like all these channels are sometimes think these are like just entertainment or like comfort shows for trad cats to watch. Just like how in atheist experience, like Matt Dillahunty, like and Matt Dillahunty, and like all these atheist shows are like in a sense comfort shows for those who have like suffered religious trauma or something.
Yeah.
Because on these shows you are not really going to have a very charitable long discussion about specific arguments for the existence of God and like examining like papers on the spot, right? And like telling each other, okay, read this paper, tell me what you think about this, right? That stuff is not going to happen. So always think like this is like a comfort show.
Hmm.
Trent Horn's show is like a comfort show rather than a kind of like an actual apologetic show. Like same with like all the many of these apologetic shows, right? There are only a few shows in which sort of respectfully and like compassionately defend Christianity in a way that the atheist would find okay. It's I do not get like um, a kind of a sort of hostile vibes here, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like Trent is very hostile to like these female priests, right? And it's like and again he has like so far we have like examined what he's saying and it's just a mess. Like question begging, straight up, right? Straight up saying stuff as if Catholicism is just true, right? And now, of course, you can say this stuff to declare, but remember, these are declarations, these are assertions. They are not arguments backed by arguments with multiple premises backed by like very good evidence like even his evidence is like well like they're including queer people like what the fuck Like that's your evidence? Like they're including queer people? Like that's the evidence of your evil. So that's the evidence of evil actions by female priests?
Hmm.
Like contraception and like so already controversial stuff.
Hmm.
That's your argument, rather than like something like, look, these female priests are preaching cruelty to puppies. These female priests are preaching like kill your son right now.
Yeah.
I'm not asking anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if these female priests like did that stuff,
Yeah.
then we would think, oh yeah, shit, bro. That's really sad. That's really scary. But like so far evidence has been like shit. So let's still watch this video even further.
But so far, all I see is rotten fruit in this movement. I also want to
Rotten fruit, right? Again, a very powerful word, rotten fruit.
Hmm.
take a moment to point out where the by their fruits argument can go wrong. First, it's sometimes used to say good effects prove a religion or a doctrine is true. Like how some people say the fruits of the Holy Spirit, like love and joy, in people who have not received baptism, shows that baptism is not the ordinary means for spiritual regeneration. But you can find all kinds of people who seem to have the fruits of the Spirit who become apostates later in life. And there are many non-Christians, like Mormons, that seem to have these fruits as well, but they don't have the Holy Spirit in spiritual regeneration. This argument can also be used sometimes to show that something is false because of its bad effects. Brandon Robertson made this argument in our conversation a few years ago on homosexuality, when he said the alleged elevated risk of suicide for people who identify as LGBT is bad fruit. That disproves the alleged bad tree of teaching against certain actions like sodomy. But this argument doesn't take into account other factors that can contribute to things like suicide rates, or the fact that those rates are elevated in even supposedly LGBT-friendly countries and communities. In both of these cases, I would say the by their fruits argument becomes too.
Where is he like getting that LGBT friendly countries have like higher suicide rates
I don't know.
than like I mean and like anti-LGBT countries are like actually measuring suicide rates of
Mhm.
these people? Like wouldn't the anti-LGBT countries would just say, yeah, like the dude like killed himself for like maybe the parents would say like don't write on the death certificate that he killed himself because of his homosexuality, right? Like because those countries because in those anti-LGBT countries being gay is like a humiliation
Right.
to the parents, right?
Right.
So
Right.
like how is that stuff happening, right? It's like
Yeah.
again, like let me like quickly see suicide rates, LGBTQ people, right? So this is Trevor Project. This is I think a pretty good charity for LGBTQ plus people. I think Wikipedia is quick for like quick search. So bullying of LGBTQ youth is a contributing factor in many suicides. So okay, like okay, that seems. I already thought like this would be one reason, and I knew it, right? Immediately knew it. Like yeah. Now Trent is like maybe other things are contributing to their suicides.
Hmm.
Like this is the thing that conservatives and right-wing Christians do. Basically, right-wing religious people do this shit where they like deny this bullying, right?
Hmm.
Like deny all the online hate and stuff like that, not just online but offline, right? And they do this stuff, and it's just oh, check this out. A study of country-level data across 36 OECD countries from 1991 to 2017 found that same-sex marriage legalization reduced the suicide rate of youth aged 10 to 24 by 1.191 deaths per 100,000, equal to 17.90 decrease. So that's pretty significant. It's like 17, 18%, almost 18% decrease. That's pretty nice.
Hmm.
So like 1 in 5, almost 1 in 5, right? That's pretty nice, no?
Hmm.
Um, so like okay, so already we like Trent Horn is right again incorrect about this stuff, right? Like about like other reasons. Well, care about the main fucking reasons, asshole. Right? Care about the main reasons first. Let's talk about main reasons first. Okay,
Hmm.
let's play the video more.
Broad. If you are saying that good or bad affect Y, proves good or bad teaching X. A better way to use this principle would be to say good or bad teaching Y proves good or bad effect X. One way to interpret Jesus' saying is that you can tell the false prophets from the true prophets by their teachings. You shouldn't follow someone just because he's charismatic. Judge that person by their fruits. Judge them by what they actually teach. The good teaching will reveal if they are a good tree or a good prophet, and the bad teaching will reveal if they are a bad tree.
Isn't that already question begging again, like bad teaching and good teaching? Like, wait, okay, bad and good according to your system, Catholicism. What the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yes. Yeah. So one thing is like, yeah, he's deciding it that the good teaching is everything he agrees with.
Yeah.
But the other thing too is again, you can see he's switching back to almost acknowledging here that this principle should be applying to individuals, not like the entire movement of female priesthood, right? So could there be bad female priests? Sure, right? Like so you look at their teaching, and if their teaching is bad, and however you want to define what that means, then you could say, okay, they're not a legitimate priest. They are not a legitimate priest, right? Not like because they are teaching something you think is bad, therefore no women could be priests, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So again, he keeps. I feel like he keeps switching back and forth between, right, like recognizing that this should apply to individuals because that's how it applies to everything else. But then when he wants to use it, though, he switches to, nope, this applies to the entire female priesthood movement, and I think that's like illegitimate. That's an illegitimate move he's trying to make.
Yeah. Yeah, let's play further. The video is done already mostly. Let's
Yeah.
see what he has to say finally.
Or a bad
Okay.
prophet. In fact, the movement to ordain women to the priesthood expresses teachings that are so bad, they would lead to cutting down the entire tree of the Catholic Church itself, because the Church stands against everything that they believe. For example, Mary Daly said of the priesthood, "I don't think it will be any panacea to go out and ordain women." For Daly and similar radical feminist theologians, swapping out women for men as priests doesn't change the patriarchal underpinnings of the God that priests represent as an alter Christus, another Christ. Look at someone like Father Anne, a woman who encouraged other women to go on strike during Lent last year to support the cause of ordaining women to the priesthood. These women want to be called Father because they're not allowed to have that title. But that implies they aren't good enough to be priests unless they pretend to be men. And for some feminist theologians, even the concept of priests as mediators between God and man is too oppressive. This can be seen in a 2021 Commonweal article by Mary Kate Holman entitled Priesthood Reimagined. Holman notes that while women priests proclaim their resistance to clericalism at every turn, it nonetheless remains a serious challenge for their ministry. If women priests claim an indelible essential transformation, they fall into the clerical power trap they seek to avoid. If they do not claim a transformation, they may lose some of their ordained.
I mean, so okay, like the point is more like some progressives are like very much against the clerical authority and like bishops, like this kind of more centralized system with councils and stuff. And some are not, some are for like decentralization. So if you support like clerical stuff, like a woman can become a priest or a bishop, and and their opinion matters basically more because they're like bishops or priests. If they believe that, then that would be inconsistent if they want even more decentralization. And I guess, yeah, sure, that's true. But it's like, wouldn't those progressives be different than those other progressives? Like, I'm left-wing Christian and I'm a confident universalist. But then there are other left-wing Christians who are like, who don't, who are like agnostic Christians, right? Who don't really believe in God and much, but they would still call themselves like agnostic Christians or something. Um, then there are other left-wing Christians who are like annihilationists. Like I have encountered progressives who are like annihilationists and like, yeah, that's stupid, but okay. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's like you're just saying there's one movement and within the movement there's like diversity. And I mean, sure, that's a fucking trivial point. That's a trivial thing,
Yeah.
right? So it's trivially true that some progressives want some things and then other progressives want other things. That's same with Catholicism. Trad cats are different than like more left-wing Catholics, right?
Yeah.
Pope Francis is different than Pope Pius I, right? So it's like it isn't really much of a criticism there. Yeah.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
And Mary Daly
Is there anything you want to say, or like?
No, I think yeah, no, I think you said everything there. Yeah, I don't really know what point this is really serving for
Yeah.
him. Um, it kind of yeah,
Right.
I don't really yeah, it's not doing much.
Right.
even said of God himself, there is no way to remove male masculine imagery from God. Thus, when writing, speaking anthropomorphically of ultimate reality of the divine spark of being, I now choose to write gynomorphically. I do so because God represents the necrophilia of patriarchy, whereas goddess affirms the life-loving being of women in nature. If patriarchy is an evil thing that literally subjugates women, then dissenters who want to be female priests are like 19th century women who wanted an equal right with men to own slaves. The only way they can have the church that they want is to destroy the only church that exists and replace it with a counterfeit, which would basically be like a hippie feminist drum circle instead.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, there are some feminists who are like, rather than saying God, let's say goddess, and I'm like, they believe that stuff sincerely, and if
Yeah.
you want to counter argue, you can just say, yeah, sure, I'm cool with goddess or God. I mean, it's not really a counter argument. You can just say, yeah, sure, I'm cool if you want to say goddess or
Yeah.
something. But I mean, it's like
Yeah.
technically like God is considered like genderless, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
guess I
like,
just like I don't know what his point here is entirely. Like there's some people who think the male hierarchy is bad, I guess, is what he's pointing out. I was like, okay, so
yeah, I mean,
uh,
so,
so he's
um,
saying I think maybe he's trying to say they're undercutting themselves, like they want to be part of the priesthood, but essential to the priesthood is sort of this hierarchy structure that they think is evil or bad or something.
yeah, but I mean, those who want to become priests wouldn't consider all hierarchies to be bad anyways, though, right? So it's like,
Yeah,
as I said, right, like some progressive are for decentralization and some are for centralization.
yeah,
Right.
right.
So
Yeah,
the female priests who want to become priests, I think they would be trivially, obviously support some kind of centralization. That's why they want to be priests, right?
yeah,
Otherwise, they would just support like decentralization and say there are no ministers or priests, no
yeah,
such thing.
right,
Every single person is their own priest.
right.
Like, but it's like, yeah, like what exactly is the point here? Like what? So again, it's as I said, right? It still sounds like his own view, and he's saying, look at these people, right, within his own views, and then he's using that and saying, look at these outside people, look at these barbarians outside. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Right? Like, what do you want to do? So
Instead,
yeah, okay, the
we can
video is
only understand the
mostly
church
over.
Christ gave us if we abandon the presumption that the church is egalitarian and democratic. It's not. We have to get over the modern idea that the priesthood is a job or a gig. It is a vocation that all the laity share in, because we are all called to pray for others and lead them to Christ. That's why St. Peter said, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood. It's not. We have to get over, only understand the church Christ gave us if we abandon the presumption that the church is egalitarian and democratic. It's not. We have to get over the modern idea that the priesthood is a job or a gig. It is a vocation that all the laity share in, because we are all called to pray for others and lead them to Christ. That's why St. Peter said, you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, that you may declare the wonderful deeds of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were no people, but now you are God's people. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. This echoes Exodus 19, where God says, you shall be my own possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. But among the Israelites there was a hierarchy, a sacred order, hieros archos, where the ministerial priests served the people, and they in turn followed the high priest. The laity still take part today in the universal priesthood, and they follow Christ, our final high priest, who offers himself to the Father. But they are served, the laity are served by the ministerial priests, who have apostolic authority to offer the one sacrifice of Christ our high priest that takes away the sins of the world. The church has a sacred order, hieros archos, a hierarchy, instituted by God to lead God's people to salvation. And it is God who tells us the fundamental nature of this order, not man. When we start taking lessons from man, only ruin can be the result. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have.
Yeah, so okay. So the last thing he says, like, it's like the church is hierarchical and not a democracy, and I'm like, sure.
Mhm.
I think
Yeah,
some of the female priests who want to become priests would be okay with that. I mean,
yeah.
as I
He,
said again, right, the
he
same point.
seems to he seems to think though that the hierarchy is critically based on men playing a certain role, it seems. But
Yeah.
again, it feels like he's switching to begging the question. Like now he just switches to saying, um, well, I was going to try to make an argument for why we shouldn't have a female priesthood and only a male priesthood, but now I'm just saying that's how God designed it. Like that's a like now I'm just saying God gets to decide, and God decided that only men get to be priests. So I feel by the end there, he's just like switched to just declaring that that's just how God decided it.
Yeah,
I
like
don't
a
know.
flat assertion.
And maybe not. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, and maybe he's thinking he proved it, and then from that concluding that we just have to accept that that's how God designed it. I don't know, but
Yeah, yeah, I sometimes I get confused by, right? Like, like, what's the purpose of his channel? Like, does he want to persuade the atheist, persuade the non-Catholics to join Catholicism, or the purpose is to entertain Catholics, like his audience, right? Like the
yeah,
so far the video seems more like an entertainment video rather than like really an actual argument, right? Because the purpose of the argument would be to communicate, like to in a sense it's to persuade, right? Like like, or at least make someone, like if you believe in something and I give you an argument um against that something, my goal is to kind of move you a bit toward
Mhm.
my view,
Mhm.
right? And that's why I'm presenting you the argument. Like what other point would be, right? So like when he says this is my favorite argument, it seems like he should be like this should be the most powerful argument that convinces the non-Catholics, right? But he's like, hey guys, it's it's like his channel is like, hey guys, bunch of assertions. That's it,
Yeah, I'm
right?
not sure who this video is entirely for. Like, is his audience here? Is he trying to persuade like fence-sitting Catholic, like Catholics who are like not sure why there shouldn't be a female priesthood? Is he trying to convince like non-believers like why they shouldn't be criticized for not having a female priesthood? Or like I'm not exactly sure who he's aiming this at.
Yeah, even when I like see the description of his video, right? Even the description like does not really say who the video is aimed for. Like he just says in this episode, Trent reveals an intuitive argument he finds helpful in making the case for an all-male priesthood, and I'm like,
So making that case to like who? Like everyone? Like Christians, some Catholics?
I mean, given that there is no qualification, I think it should be to everyone.
Yeah. Hmm.
So. So I mean, that's such a like like he failed. He failed astoundingly in doing the job so far.
Yeah, I didn't think it was a good argument. Like,
Yeah, and these people, these right wing, like Trent does this. I don't know if other right wing people do this too. Probably, Matthew McManus like respects Roger Scruton. I don't know if you know Roger Scruton.
mm-mm.
Okay, so he's like a conservative philosopher, and I think he's respected, and he does take some of the left-wing people seriously, some of the left-wing philosophers and like historians, Roger Scruton.
Hmm.
And
Oh.
Matthew McManus, who's like a political philosopher, left-wing political philosopher, respects Roger Scruton for that. But
Okay.
what Trent Horn just did, like he talked about like Mary Daly, so again, a radical feminist philosopher, right?
Yeah.
Rather than a more like center left feminist, more liberal, closer to liberalism rather than radical feminism. So again, this is like, I mean, imagine Ryan, if I brought the most insane Catholic priest and made a video about him and then generalized that video for all Catholicism. That would be such a disgusting, bigoted argument, though,
Hmm.
right? Like, no, all Catholics are not like that, right? Obviously. So, but Trent does this stuff, right, where he's bringing like these radical feminist priests, And like, yeah, okay. Also look at these like top voted comments, right? I dated an Episcopal deacon lady once and attended a gay wedding. This was a catalyst to help me revert to Catholicism. And I'm always thinking, okay, not like seeing cruelty, not like actual cruelty, not like female priests are like stabbing people in the eye, right?
Yeah.
Female priests are like cutting tongues of people. Female priests are like chainsawing a bunch of rabbits in front, like in front of everyone, like animal cruelty or like straight up cruelty or like straight up harm. And you're not seeing these priests are like supporting fucking Stalin or something, right? Like a dictator who murdered a bunch of people, like supporting gulags, concentration camps or something.
Yeah.
No, no. A motherfucking gay wedding
Right.
was a catalyst to revert. A fucking gay wedding was a catalyst to revert to Catholicism. What a fucking moron. Right. Like, what a fucking moron this dude is, right? Like a gay wedding, dude. Like that. Like what a pathetic piece of shit, right? Because it's like, I mean, you would think there's like some World War shit going on, with like progressive, the amount of stuff that the conservatives, like right wing, say about progressive people, you'd be thinking like, oh God, like they talk about like mutilating children and stuff whenever it relates to like trans youth, trans people. They talk about like mutilating children, but
Yeah.
then like it's not it's just false. It's just fear mongering.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh, she's pretending to be an actual priest again. You see this stuff, Ryan, right? Like
Yeah.
very look at what his audience are saying.
Yeah.
Um, um, this wasn't a priest, this was an activist in costume.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Like activist, right? As if activist, what, like, do these people know what the fuck activism actually means?
Yeah.
Like activism is like people do activism because they sincerely believe certain things and they really want to change like certain laws and stuff because they believe that those things are unjust.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like activism is like thrown as like an insult or something.
Right.
It's,
Right.
yeah, I mean it's stupid. It's stupid. Is there anything you want to say at the end, I guess, before we end?
Um, I think yeah, and I think you point out a good, again, just kind of going back to the priorities here. I mean, I know, so Trent seems he kind of uses language a bit flippantly here, like you said, he keeps using the words evil and these things where you're like, hey, we should reserve that word for like serious things
Yeah.
that are like actually horrible and bad. And I mean, I know Trent probably means something very specific by that word, but it really like carries this weight, this connotation. Yeah, it makes it sound like these are horrible women, teaching just these awful things. And then, like you said, when you actually look at what they're saying, it's like, oh, like, okay, it's just you disagree with them on these topics that are like not a big deal really at all compared to like what you could mean if you were talking about evil. But what Trent means is like just not correct teaching. That's really
Yeah.
what he's
Yeah.
that's really what he ultimately means.
Yeah, like heresy.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he's an heretic, right?
right.
But
Yeah,
I mean, look, if you like does this dude want to go back to a time when heretics were like brutally punished?
yeah, I don't
Right.
know.
Like
Yeah.
like if that's the case, then like fuck this dude, I mean, yeah, so okay, this was that's the end of our episode, this episode.
I
Um
thought about it. Yep.
Great. Look, I'm just telling to the audience now, guys and gals, look, if you found me more aggressive, um, I mean, that's just me, right? I mean, Ryan is more cool-headed. I'm a bit more aggressive, and that's fine. Ryan is much more, I guess, experienced and older than me. I'm a young dude, and I'm very energetic, I guess, and I get annoyed when people exaggerate stuff, like fearmonger and stuff like that. I get annoyed by that stuff. So it's like that's why I'm like aggressive, and Trent like does this stuff consistently. I highly recommend people to just watch Joe Schmidt and Dustin Crumett's response to Trent on sexual ethics. Joe points out specifically where Trent says Trent calls the 1960s LGBTQ plus people who remember Ryan in during 1960s 19 like LGBTQ plus people, consensual sex was decriminalized only in 1962. So during 1960s, they were like literally fighting for their basic rights so that the police do not harass them.
Yeah.
The police do not like literally get in their clubs, mass arrest them, or like police get in their houses, and then arrest them, throw them in jail, throw them in prison. Like they were literally fighting for their basic rights. Very basic. They were not fighting for like same-sex marriage at that time.
Yeah.
So calling them activists, and I mean they were activists, sure, but no, Trent Horn said propagandists, right?
Mm.
They were pushing propaganda. Like
Mm.
when Trent does this,
Yeah.
like I want to be aggressive. Like you fuck you, cunt, right?
Yeah.
Like don't do that. Don't do. I'm not going to let you get away with that.
Hmm.
Okay, twat. So yeah, so that's why I'm like aggressive. I hope my audience understands that. Okay, thank you, everyone. Um, I'm stopping the recording now, Ran.
All right.